Welcome, each of you, to Creative Spirit Gathering. To those of you that have been joining our program for a while, and to any newcomers, you are welcome here. Creative Spirit Gathering is your place for using your art journal for exploring and expressing what is on your mind and your heart. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you this project that I've started, not yet completed, but started. And the idea that I was working with is the idea of storyboarding. So we'll be doing a bit of storyboarding today as we work through the power of order in our lives. Before we jump in, I would like to thank you once again for helping to support this program through your financial gifts. This program is offered on a donation or love offering basis so that we can provide this opportunity for anyone, anywhere, no matter their circumstances, to benefit through this creative practice. So my message today really is inspired around this theme of movie, of being our own directors, if you will, of our lives and of our events, of what comes forward and how we respond in particular. This idea was actually sparked about 12 years ago in my own life, and I've been working with this theme since. And it was somebody said something that really resonated for me. You have those moments in your life where somebody says something and there's like this aha within you. They've sparked something, triggered something that is then like, oh, I can work with that. You know, it's like you see something a little bit differently. So to share the story with you, in 2010, I had the opportunity to go on an artist retreat to France. Long story behind how that happened, but it was one of those, I'm going to do this and it's going to happen. So when I arrived, we had to wait for all of the participants to arrive at the airport. Not everybody was on the same flight. We were coming from different places, different airports. So we sat around and waited for quite a while. We met up with our hosts there and got to meet some of the other artists that were coming in for this event. And when we were all present and accounted for, the next step on our agenda was to go get lunch. By this point, everybody's hungry. We've been on this really long flight. So we hop into this blue van, everybody piles in, and we go out to the town of Toulouse to have lunch. And when we get there, we had been delayed to the point where most of the kitchens were closed for lunch. And our host was like, not acceptable. We're going to get you guys fed. Don't worry about it. And so he actually went in. He's like, I'm going to go talk to the chef and see what we can get worked out for you. And some of the women that were in this retreat group with me looked at him and they're like, oh, no, don't worry about it. They were trying to make it easy or say like, it's okay. Like, just take us somewhere else. We don't need to eat here. And he looked at them and very directly just said, this is my movie. This is my movie. Go have a seat. I'm going to get you lunch. And that line has stayed with me. This is my movie. This is my movie. Now, stepping back, right, from this perspective that I'm at right now, I can look at this in terms of he was organizing a retreat event. There was a lot of planning that went into this, a lot of organization, order that had to happen ahead of time in order for this event to take place. And so when one thing didn't fall into alignment of the order, somebody's flight being delayed, right, and now everybody's delayed for lunch, he had to look at this from his director's chair and say, what changes can I make now to the script so that the movie still goes on track, right? What can I do to keep things in order, to keep balance and harmony within our group? And I love that he claimed his own power, his own authority in that moment. This is my movie. And he went back, talked to the chef, came out and said, all right, here's what we're going to do. 4 of you are going to stay here. The chef's going to feed you. 6 of you come with me. We're going to go over to the restaurant across the street. We're going to make it work for you too. And so he broke us up into groups and everybody got to eat. This is my movie. So this is the phrase that I want to give to each of you today. This is your movie. This life that you are leading is your movie, and everyone in it is playing a role, and they're all playing their role beautifully. Yes, and so our role is to constantly check in with ourselves, check in with our own sense of order and balance and harmony. And when we feel like the movie is getting out of control in front of us, it's not looking like things are lining up the way that we want them to, it is up to us to then step into our own power. All of these beautiful spiritual powers we've been talking about, step into our own power and rewrite the script a little bit, right? We can't necessarily tell each of the actors that are in our lives to act in a different way. That's not necessarily ours to do. We can rewrite our own script. Rewrite, how am I going to respond in this situation so that I can come at this from a different perspective, so that I can create more harmony, balance, and order in my life. So as we've been looking at this 12 power system, right? Our 12 spiritual powers, faith, understanding, imagination, love. Each one of these we've associated with a location in the body, with a color. And Charles Fillmore, the founder of this particular system, also identifies an apostle with each one of these spiritual powers. So for the power of order, it is located in our navel, right around the navel. So imagine that as your power center of order. And imagine a deep olive green associated with it. It is an artist. I love the fact that each one of these has a color. It creates a very visual way of exploring these. And the apostle that he has identified with the sense of order is James, son of Alphaeus, that he represents balance and harmony through centering awareness, and that being, again, centering back into our own truth, our own spiritual center. So as we're looking at this from the perspective of who inspires us, right? For me, I'm thinking back on that retreat director who said, "This is my movie," right? That was one of those moments of reclaiming order in my life. And perhaps you relate to a particular Bible story, or perhaps there is an author who you really connect with. Maybe it's a character in a movie who said a line that really resonates for you. So as you're thinking about who inspires your sense of order, again, you don't have to connect it with what somebody else found inspiring, but connect it with what you find inspiring, because we always want to make these spiritual practices about things that are applicable to our lives right now. What rings true for us? So if my idea of this is your movie doesn't click, find something else, another phrase, another line, another actor, if you will, in your life story who inspires this sense of order in your life. So I chose this idea of storyboarding to go with the theme of it's my movie. It's my movie. Because when we think of storyboarding, right, the general idea is that those who are pitching forward a movie are going to say, okay, here's kind of the lines that we're going to walk through. Here's the general outline of things. But a storyboard is not the finished product. It's not the end movie. It's ideas of what can happen. And for my own, as I started working through it, you'll see here, I ended up with scenes instead of like creating people engaged in conversation, although I could have done that approach. But what was just sort of naturally coming forward for me was this idea of creating scenes. So first, writing out that I needed to look at this from the perspective of it's a script, and I can choose in my own story to be a victim, or I can choose in my story to be a hero. So that was my first acknowledgement. This is where my story began as I was writing this out for myself. I chose the director's chair, that I could lean into that idea, and then sort of a set, that you could walk into. My son came in while I was drawing that. He's like, "What on earth are you drawing?" Because you can see like the tree has like a little pole behind it to hold it up. So each one, right, was a little scene. And these were done like quick, loose sketches. If you look at my little chart here, like the perspective is totally off, and I'm okay with that. This wasn't about my inner perfectionist artist coming out. I'll save that for the big canvases in our journals. It's really just about getting ideas on the page. How can we explore with the theme, with the idea as it's coming forward for us? So you might want to play around with the storyboarding idea today. What is coming forward in your own life that you want to create more of a sense of order, of harmony, and of balance around? And then coming at that, not necessarily from our human ego perspective that wants to just control it all, and then this person will say this, and then I'll do this action, and then this person will say this, right? Like we're not going to write the script for other people today. But we can lean into, if something feels out of balance, we can lean into what would that feel like if it were in balance, right? What would that relationship, that interaction feel like? What would it feel like, to say you want to enter your first ever art show, right? What would that feel like to envision it from the sense of the highest perspective? What would it feel like if you were to fully embrace a new activity that you're being called forward to, instead of leaning into the fear that we sometimes do, right? Or that inner critic around, oh, I couldn't do that, I shouldn't do that, what will people think or say? Write it out from your highest perspective. Lean into your own truth as you're sort of scripting out what your role is in your movie. The highest possible outcome. I happen to make a lot of squares. I'll tell you, I put more than an hour into the ones that I have already done. So knowing that we have an hour together today, you might want to do a half spread, or maybe do a series of 4 images instead of, breaking it out into many, or start like I did, right? Start your page and then continue, right? Stories are constantly unfolding. Leave spaces for you to continue to add in what's next, what's next, what's next, creating balance and harmony in that space. For our meditation today, I'm going to be reading a meditation on the power of order by Reverend Bronte Colbert. For those of you who are going to ask me to share it in the chat, yes, I will, but after I'm done reading it. So I invite you to take this time before we lean into our meditation to make your body comfortable. Take that moment, right? Roll your shoulders or your neck, sit up nice and tall, let that energy flow. Take a couple of deep breaths here, letting the breath center us in the here and now. I call upon divine order for balance in my daily journey. If I'm feeling overwhelmed with responsibilities or life feels out of balance, I turn away from outer appearances. I picture my life as a beautiful path, a journey of discovery and joy. One step at a time, I move forward into that which is mine to do. I see all aspects of my life in order, against a backdrop of gratitude, spiritual purpose, and direction. If I am wishing for something that has not yet appeared, I trust that my good easily comes to me in divine timing. I see my body working in divine order. It is healthy, whole, and full of energy and life. I take time to appreciate nature, its beauty, balance, and perfect timing. I delight in the symmetry of a seashell or the layers of art in a cloud. As I create a sense of order in my home, work, and activities, I discover balance and peace. Together we affirm this truth. As I affirm there is one presence and power in my life, all else falls into place. I claim divine order now. And let us rest for a moment of silence in that truth. I claim divine order now. I claim divine order now. We bring this awareness with us, this claim of truth, as we bring our awareness back to our bodies, back to our seats, back to our rooms, to this point in time. As we gently flutter our eyes open, let us give thanks for this opportunity to explore and express the creative spirit active in our lives. And so it is. So I invite you now to move into your creative journaling process. Remember, this is your movie. What do you choose to create and direct?